Now I'd like to turn to Troy Andrews, who is also known as Trombone Shorty. When he stands up, you'll see that the shorty is ironic. But Troy, when the jury and the board talked about his work, they were captivated by the fact that he's been working in New Orleans on preserving and carrying forward the art form, the music of New Orleans, making it his own and creating his own form of that, translating it for the next generation, and working with children to bring them into a celebration of music. So they saw him as not only a profound communicator of culture, but also as someone who cared about the place in which he lived and the future of it as embodied in the children of that community, and indeed of the world. So, Troy Andrews. Now, I should say that Troy's a musician, so when we asked him if he'd be willing to say a few words, he said no. But he said, I'll talk to you. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Can you say a little bit about your history? I mean, you came to this through your own distinct path, and I'd just love for you to talk for a minute about how you came into the music profession and why it matters to you so much.
Well, in New Orleans, my family plays. My brother's a trumpet player, and so I was given a trombone at age 4, and that's where the shorty comes in at. But so the horn was much taller than that, but he took me on tour and taught me this. In New Orleans, you know, music is everything there. So it's just like having the food as a part of our culture, part of the language, and without the music, we don't have much of a New Orleans. So me growing up in the city and just being surrounded by that in my community, which is the Treme neighborhood, where I had hundreds of musicians live there. Part of them was some of them were some of my family members and friends, but they all saw something special in me, and they'll go on the road and come back, give me some type of a test that I was supposed to do, and then they'll come back in 2 weeks and ask me, can I play it? And then they'll teach me something else. So for me, I wanted to be able to give that back to the kids, because after Katrina, I realized that my neighborhood would never be the same, and that type of growing up that I grew up living in, it won't exist. So I wanted to be able to reach the kids citywide and give them the education that I gained and that I was able to accomplish throughout my career, and also hip them to some things that was the music business, because in New Orleans we have a lot of people that's great musicians, but they don't know the music business, so in the recording industry. So I wanted to be able to give them all that information in one gumbo pot.
I'm privileged to work for a family that has a long history and tradition of support for the arts. I think Pittsburgh has prospered in part because of that commitment to the arts. But now we're talking about the arts in the context of equity and how to create a more equitable society for all. So from your own experience, why does art matter in that context?
Well, you know, it's very important, you know. I try to teach the kids, because when I was growing up and I went to the school band, that kind of kept me interested in going to school. And I think some of the kids get lost if we don't have the arts. So it's very important. Can you imagine a world without music, you know, without art and different things? So, and it helps a lot of people, you know. It helps create relationships, it helps create friendships. You can communicate through music. There's different type of atmospheres that the arts bring. That's really, it brings out people's strong points. And like my bass player, he's a musical genius. He may not be a people's person, but when we're talking about music, he's the most brilliant person that I've ever met. So music and the arts is very important, and whatever it may be. Even if kids don't even do it for a profession, just having it in their childhood will make a big difference in their lives.
Is that what motivated you to start the foundation?
Yeah, it's what motivated me, just looking at my city. You know, it can be a tough place to grow up sometimes. There's a lot of murder and different things, and I was on the road, and there was some news story on, and it was just really negative news on New Orleans. And at that moment, I made a decision to give back to the city in what I'm strong in, which is music. So I see a lot of young musicians playing on the streets and everything. And I just wanted to pull them in and give them the fundamentals that they needed to be able to go and play for some of the world's biggest artists and have the right tools, and also carry on the New Orleans tradition and take it to another level. So I just wanted to have an impact, and you know, I didn't want to have my career slow down before I gave back. I didn't want the kids to be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You know? So I just wanted to
You
do
used
it.
the phrase earlier that you're still cool to them.
Sometimes. So, you know, some of the things that we're able to talk about, and they think is hip. They think I'm hip sometimes, and sometimes it's like, oh, okay, you know, just be cool. But so while I'm young enough and I'm close enough in age with them to where I can understand what they're going through and I can introduce them to some things, I thought that it would be, it was only right for me to do it now so they can see that it can be done, you know. So they'll call me, some of the kids will call me sometimes at 1 in the morning or something to ask me what note did I play on. I'm like, you know, you're gonna have to figure that out yourself because I'm halfway asleep now. But just to be able to have those kids, and you know, they're able to see me. I didn't leave New Orleans. You know, most people that made it from there had to move away. I wanted to let them know that we can make New Orleans a place where people want to come and play music from around the world, and you know, that's just really fun to me to be able to give back to them and learn from them also.
So undoubtedly, some of the kids that you're working with have the sort of traumatic experiences that Nadine's talking about and the challenges in their life. Do you find that music helps with them deal with that?
Yes, absolutely. Music is very emotional. So, like in New Orleans, we celebrate life. We play jazz funerals. It's probably the only place in the world where you'll see people dancing at a funeral. So those type of emotions come through music. And when I see some of these kids playing, they can be going through whatever it is they're doing at home or whatever they're going through. But when you hear it and in music, you can hear the cry, you can hear the happiness or the sorrow or whatever it may be. And music really helps out with that. So I wanted to give them a chance to let them know that even though some of their living conditions may be rough, that if they're really serious about music, it can be their passport to see the world, and they can open up and hopefully go back and teach some other kids. So some of the kids that was seniors in the program, they went off to college, and when they come back to the school and they help out and teach. So hopefully we can keep that cycle going, and this music can be a savior to some of the kids.
I imagine that's partly why you wrote a children's book called Trombone Shorty.
Yeah.
And has it been well received?
It has. I think it sold about 40,000 copies or something like that, and it won a Caldecott Award, Coretta Scott King. I wasn't really hip to the book industry.
Not bad. That's not bad.
So I did it because I've been playing since I was 4, and by the time I was 7, I had my own band. So they put me in a spot, and so I would have to go to these places, and we'll play these brass band shows and play for birthday parties, and the people will be like, "Well, who do we have to pay?" And I'm like this big, and I'm like, well, you know. And so they all start calling me boss at an early age, but so the book is just basically about my first half of my career, where I was thrown into learning on the spot, and we were all kids, so everybody in my band if I was 7, they were probably 5 and 6. And so, you know, and we were really going to play these shows for people, and sometimes we had chaperones, sometimes we had to chaperone ourselves, but through music, you know. So the book is basically about the beginning of my career.
You know, it's actually normal at a Heinz Awards event to feel a little depressed about your own accomplishments as you're listening to, in case any of you are sharing this with me. 7 years old. You may win the Precociousness Award for you know, I want to make sure I get this right. The form of music that you've sort of carved out for yourself is super funk rock.
Yeah.
Did I do that right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
I think so.
While you wouldn't give a speech, you did fine with this. And would you share a little bit of music with us?
Yeah. I got my hand. So I have to say I don't have anything prepared, like the speech, but growing up in New Orleans, the music is very improvised based, so whatever I do today is written on the spot and it's just for you, and I probably won't remember it tomorrow, but if I can, we'll name it after the event on the next record. Yeah. And I didn't warm up, so if I miss a couple of notes, just work with me. Thank you.